Alright, so I'm going to go over the video Glenn Greenwald released on Alexei Navalny and basically how I disagree with it. So let's get started.
It'd be one thing if Alexei Navalny were some sort of gigantic figure in Russia. The only reason you know the name Alexei Navalny is because the West has turned him into this mythological figure. There was a documentary made about him. It won the Academy Award for Best Documentary in 2022. All of Hollywood stood and cheered for this documentary about the hero Navalny. In Russia, he's a minuscule figure. He's not some giant of the Russian political stage.
So this is the way Glenn Greenwald starts off the video. Very interesting. He doesn't start off the video saying that the top opposition to Putin was killed, or even speculates or says that he died in jail, and it speculates that he was killed or wasn't killed. I think most people agree that Alexei Navalny at 47 years old probably didn't just drop dead in an Arctic prison in Russia. He doesn't bring up that Putin tried to kill him in 2020 by poisoning him. And he says later in the video that Alexei Navalny got 2% in the polls, and he really wasn't the main opposition to Putin. It really wasn't an important person at all. If we see here, actually, Alexei Navalny, when he took part in the Moscow mayor election, he actually got 27% of the vote. So obviously Putin did think that he was a big deal. And Glenn Greenwald's not making the point he thinks he's making. If Alexei Navalny's not important, nobody cares about him, and he's not a threat to Putin, why would Putin try to kill him in 2020, jail him several times throughout his career, and then, once he goes back to Russia, immediately jail him again, throw him in an Arctic prison, and then he mysteriously dies? For Glenn Greenwald, someone who supposedly cares about civil liberties and freedom of speech, this seems a bit odd. But we'll go later in the video and figure out why is he making this leap. The main opposition to Putin, no matter how small it was, and actually Alexei Navalny wasn't necessarily small, like I said, he got 27% of the vote in Moscow. Him dying actually is a pretty big story, and something that Glenn Greenwald would certainly care about. If the main opposition in the United States was imprisoned, they tried to kill him, they then actually did kill him in prison, he would think that's a big story. And he's going to make comparisons to Trump later on. The difference being, Trump, believe it or not, is still alive, in case you haven't heard.
He is useful to the West for propagandistic purposes, and that is why you have this incredibly inflated imagery of what he is. Here's Reuters on February 21st of 2018. Putin nemesis Navalny barred from the election, tries political siege.
Yeah, very interesting article Greenwald uses. Putin nemesis Navalny, barred from election, tries political siege. You know, he purposely chose an article that makes Navalny seem very, very evil. Now, keep in mind, Glenn Greenwald is a civil libertarian who talks a lot about the Patriot Act, torture at Guantanamo, and Abu Ghraib, the Abu Ghraib prison in Iraq. But somehow, whenever it comes to other countries, especially Russia, he doesn't really seem too concerned about it. In fact, he seems to really run cover for it. We could see this even in his Ukraine coverage, where he actually denies things like the Bucha massacre that happened in Ukraine, which is on video. So this doesn't just seem odd. It's pretty obvious what he's doing. He has one focus, that's America, and seems to give everyone else either a pass or he kind of tacitly supports it. And I'll do other videos in the future about kind of the anti-war crowd, Greenwald, Jimmy Dore, Dave Smith, people like that, because I find them very interesting, but very hypocritical. There's a reason that, for some reason, he would deny something like the Bucha massacre in Ukraine. And he's actually going to talk about Ukraine later. Of course, he brings up Ukrainian Nazis.
Remember when the proof of Russia's totalitarianism was that the opposition leader was barred from the ballot and then imprisoned? Isn't that a situation similar to what we have in the United States? Isn't it the case that the primary political opponent of the current government in Washington is in the process of being stricken from the ballot as a result of judges and Democratic Party leaders bringing cases to have them struck from the ballot, and is in the process of being criminally prosecuted by Democratic partisan prosecutors like Fani Willis in Georgia and Alvin Bragg in New York and the Obama DOJ? Why is it that when we hear that Russia is banning from the ballot the primary political opponent of Vladimir Putin and then trying to imprison him?
You know, I've watched this video a few times, but actually didn't really catch this. First two times I watched it. Greenwald's pretty sneaky. Look at what he says right there. He says that, well, let's hear it one more time.
When we hear that Russia is banning from the ballot the primary political opponent of Vladimir Putin and then trying to imprison him.
That Navalny was barred from the ballot, and then they tried to imprison him. Notice he said they tried to imprison him. Oh no, Greenwald. They did imprison him many, many times. They also tried to kill him. They also then did imprison him on trumped up charges. Yeah, I said trumped up. And then he died in prison. That would be the difference. And he knows this. He's not an idiot. He's doing a comparison to Trump. Now, personally, I don't think what they're doing to Trump is good either. However, it's not the same thing, and he knows it's not the same thing. And another interesting point is, let's say it's exactly the same thing. Let's say Navalny and Trump are being treated exactly equally. Well, then he should be outraged at the treatment of Navalny, because he talks about the treatment of Trump and how it's a banana republic and how it's awful and how the Democrats have lost their minds. So if they're both equal, then he should be just as mad at Putin. You'll see in this entire video, he gives no condemnation of the treatment of Navalny, ever. So they're not both equal. They tried to kill Navalny, and now he's dead. Trump is not dead, but they are trying to throw him in prison. That part is true. So it's not equal, but even if it was equal, Greenwald would still be the one being inconsistent. They are definitely persecuting and prosecuting Trump unfairly, I think. However, with Russia, it's a complete dictatorship. So we're not just talking about one person being prosecuted unfairly and still having a two-party system. A lot of people that can run against, in this case, the incumbent Joe Biden. In Russia, there's nobody who's allowed to run against Putin. He gets rid of anybody who gets even close to power. And yes, Navalny did get close to power, getting 27% in the Moscow mayor race. So they get rid of everybody. It's not just that they're prosecuting one person. And you really do have to wonder, why would Greenwald be even trying to run cover for this? He's against dictatorships, supposedly. He's for freedom of speech, supposedly. Why can't he say what they're doing to Trump is bad, but what they do in Russia is 1,000 times worse? Because they do it to every single person. Plus, they do extrajudicial killings. Plus, Putin's been in power since, 2000? 1999, 2000? And that is actually a worse system. He won't say that. He can't say that. It goes against his ideology.
We make one conclusion, but then we hear in the United States that the exact same thing is happening. But an actual significant political figure, not like Navalny, but Donald Trump, who was actually the president already, narrowly lost in 2020, is leading almost every opinion poll up for 2024. When he is struck from ballots, when he is threatened with imprisonment, a completely different narrative about that is presented, even though they're the same acts. And I know a lot of people just intuitively believe this is what propaganda does, this is what tribalism does, is that we just inherently believe that when it seems like the two things are the same, the fact that one is happening in the United States and the other is happening in Russia means they're completely different. Question, though, whether or not that's what you believe because you're an American, because you were born in the United States, because you've been told from childhood that that's how you should see the world. Here is Reuters. Now, this is not RT, this is not Sputnik, this is not Tucker Carlson, whoever you want to dismiss as some sort of pro-Russian source. This is Reuters in 2018, which said the following, quote, opinion polls put Navalny's support at less than 2%. And many Russians who still get much of their news from state TV say they do not even know who he is. He's incredibly more famous and more notable and more popular in Western political capitals than he is in Russia. The idea that he's a threat to Vladimir Putin in any way is laughable. Let's try and remember as well a couple of things about who Alexei Navalny is, the new hero of Western liberals. From Yahoo News in February of this year, actually yesterday, Alexei Navalny's, quote, far-right racist past brought back in spotlight after Putin critics' death. As world leaders pay tribute to Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, some have drawn attention to some inconvenient aspects of his past. Really, what's inconvenient? Quote, as Western politicians pay their respects, some more uncomfortable aspects of Navalny's career have been brought back to the surface. Quote, Navalny took part in the Russian March, an annual demonstration that draws ultranationalists, including some who adopt swastika-like symbols. Oh my, that is uncomfortable. Quote, he has never apologized for his earlier xenophobic videos or his decision to attend the Russian March. Rahman appeared to be referring to a notorious video from 2007 in which Navalny appears to compare Muslim immigrants in Russia to cockroaches as he advocated for gun ownership. In another video, he is dressed as a dentist and appears to compare migrants in Moscow to tooth cavities, Radio Free Europe reports. He says, quote, "I recommend full sanitization. Everything in our way should be carefully but decisively removed through deportation." Shortly before releasing both clips, Navalny was expelled by the liberal Yabloko party over his, quote, "nationalist activities," having participated in the Russian March, an annual rally associated with ultranationalist far-right groups chanting slogans such as "Russia for ethnic Russians." Now, anyone in the United States who has a past like that, who called immigrants cockroaches, who advocated gun control, as handing out guns as a way to exterminate them, as cockroaches should be exterminated, who attended an actual neo-Nazi march, I don't think they would be described as having an inconvenient or uncomfortable past. And yet it is amazing, just like we find in Ukraine, with all the neo-Nazi militias in Ukraine that the American liberals love and want to arm.
Greenwald does a bizarre pivot to Ukraine, not the bombings of Ukraine, not the Bucha massacre, which he actually denied. He said the Bucha massacre in Ukraine didn't happen. I'll show the tweet. Retweeted it right here, which is pretty disgusting since the Bucha massacre is on video. You can just watch it. Greenwald still denies it. But he does a pivot to the Azov Battalion. You knew it was going to come up. I'll talk about them in a second. But I let that clip run kind of long just because I don't think that Navalny is to the right of Putin. He's going to play a video later where he advocates for Russians to be able to own guns, whereas right now Putin does not allow them to own guns. It is interesting for someone who's friends with Tucker Carlson, who constantly calls migrants, or to be fair, illegal immigrants, low IQ. He has compared them to cockroaches. That he's using examples of Navalny saying something that actually would be kind of something you would hear on Fox News. But he's also kind of getting it wrong. At least from what I can see from the video he's about to play of Navalny. Navalny's talking about Chechen terrorists. And actually Navalny shows a picture of a Chechen terrorist that Glenn Greenwald doesn't describe. These are a jihadist group in Chechnya that actually blew up airliners. So it seems more likely that Navalny is referring to actual jihadist terrorists that are blowing up airliners, not just a regular Muslim. But I'm not a Russian. I don't have to run cover for Navalny. It's possible that he's racist. He still doesn't deserve to be killed, and Greenwald never brings this up. But his examples so far just sound like something you kind of hear on Fox News. This is like the fact that he is friends with Tucker Carlson and doesn't call him out on any of his rhetoric or any of his stuff that he says about even illegal immigrants is kind of bizarre. This is the stuff that doesn't really bother Glenn Greenwald. But we'll get to that in a second. I mean, since leaving, or I should say getting fired from Fox News, Tucker Carlson has been, we'll say, ramping up the rhetoric. I mean, he recently did an interview with one of the co-founders of VDare, which, if you read their mission statement, which I won't read, I'll put it up here if you want to read it, but yeah, it's pretty bad. They want a very, we'll say, traditional society. Like, they want to go back to the 50s, like the 1750s. So the fact that Tucker Carlson supports VDare, which is has tons of ties to, not just ties, but is an actual white supremacist website. Yeah, just another kind of inconsistency of Greenwald. And it's just kind of odd that this is kind of what he's focusing on. That, as I said before, this stuff is, you could totally do this in the right. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene hasn't said things worse than immigrants or cockroaches. Yes, she has. I don't know. I'm not sure who he thinks he's fooling by this. I mean, for Greenwald to pretend like you're going to be completely kicked out of the Republican Party if you even dare, compare immigrants to cockroaches, or even dare to say, what was that one? Russia for ethnic Russians. Okay, so America for ethnic Americans. You couldn't say that? He's saying you'd be kicked out of, what, the Republican Party if you said that? Might point him to Marjorie Taylor Greene's tweets. All right, so we'll keep going. Greenwald's very offended, though. I mean, okay. And going back to the Azov Battalion, which Greenwald mentioned in this video. So we can see right here, the Azov Battalion has somewhere around, the estimate is 900 members. This is in 2002. And when it was fighting in the Donbass, it had 2,500 members in 2017. So as you can see, a lot of the Azov Battalion is being killed. So this is the far-right neo-Nazi battalion in Ukraine. It's interesting Greenwald brings this up and not any of the massacres or any of the stealing of children, which Russia has also been doing and sending them to re-education camps in Siberia. Ukraine has 43 million people in it. So having a battalion, a neo-Nazi battalion that right now, at least the latest estimate is 2022, has 900 members, doesn't seem like something to obsess over. But Greenwald brings this up all the time. Anytime he talks about Ukraine, he immediately goes to Azov Battalion. But I think it's important to know how big this battalion is. And comparing it to I'm in the United States right now. I mean, there's many far-right Ku Klux Klan neo-Nazi groups here that have many more members than 900. So just to keep it in perspective, why does he keep bringing this up? There's 900 members of the Azov Battalion. They are a neo-Nazi battalion, but this seems like a weird thing to bring up. Unless, of course, you're just trying to run cover for Russia, which is exactly what Glenn Greenwald is doing. So keep that in mind next time you hear about the Azov Battalion. There's 900 members, and their size is going down because they are, a lot of them being killed.
That if you're somebody who doesn't love the Democratic Party in the United States, you will get called a Nazi and a fascist and a white nationalist. And American liberals and Western liberals will try to have you barred from the internet and fired from your job and basically expelled from decent society in every way. And then Western liberals encounter actual Nazis, people with actual neo-Nazi ideology, with actual overt ties to white supremacist and neo-Nazi groups, and they want to embrace them. They want to arm them. The hero Navalny. Here's the hero Navalny in 2007.
Здравствуйте! Сегодня мы поговорим о борьбе с насекомыми. Никто из нас не застрахован.
So just for the people listening, I'm going to just read the screen. It says, background left, Alexei Navalny, certified specialist. Hello, today we have to talk about insect control. No house is safe from cockroach infestation. Ooh, where a fly gets in through an open window. And there's all kinds of demons being shown as he says this. We all know the cure against flies, a fly swatter, a slipper against a roach. But what to do if cockroaches are too big and flies too aggressive? In such cases, I recommend a handgun, as he shows a handgun. Yes to allowing firearms. Now, anybody involved in an ad like that in the United States would be deemed a Nazi for the rest of his life. The Western media looks at this, and because of his propagandistic value, they turn him into some kind of like civil liberties leader. And of course, the same exact thing has been happening for the last 2 years in Ukraine. For the last decade in the Western press, every time the Azov Battalion has been referenced, it has been described as a neo-Nazi group, as a group with Nazi ideology. And to this day, you see Azov battalions and their leaders and their soldiers, and they have all kinds of neo-Nazi insignia on them.
And there we go again. You know, the Azov Battalion gets mentioned. Once again, why is he talking about a neo-Nazi battalion in Ukraine? This video is about Navalny, right? Who is a Russian opposition to Putin, but of course, he can't help himself. I mean, wait till he hears that actually the founder of the Wagner Group, Dmitry Yukin, this guy here, was, oh no, a neo-Nazi. In fact, it says Yukin was an admirer of Nazi Germany and had multiple Nazi tattoos, including the SS insignia, which he had on his neck. And the Wagner Group, unlike Azov Battalion, the Wagner Group does not have 900 members. So, yeah. One of the leaders of the Wagner Group, or the original leader, was a neo-Nazi, which when they invaded Ukraine in 2022 had 50,000 members. So, but this is all kind of ridiculous. This is playing a weird Nazi game of who has more Nazis. Well, I mean, I guess technically, Russia wins that one. If Dmitry Yukin's the founder of the Wagner Group, him and Prigozhin. So, anyways, but going back to the Navalny video, if you see here, he does show one. It is a little unclear what he's talking about, Navalny, because it is very bizarre. He's using special effects. He uses effects from, I think they were saying, Half-Life 2, and he's talking about a fly swatter. It seems like he's talking about people that break into your home, but he could also be talking about immigrants as well. But he shows this one shot of Chechen terrorists, so he could also just be talking about just terrorists in general. Either way, I don't think this video, once again, would this video be so crazy that someone on the right would release someone like this, like someone running in a West Virginia, senator election? Could he do something like this? Probably. In fact, I did a little bit of Googling to see if I could find any crazy ads that would be, we'll say, insensitive to Greenwald's feelings, and I did. So check these out.
China family has given him tens of millions of dollars.
We've got the deportation bus. That's right, you heard me. The Michael Williams deportation bus. Fill this bus with illegals to send them back to where they came from.
Wow, the deportation bus, huh? The Magic School Bus is weird enough, but I don't think I want to go on the deportation bus. But Greenwald should get on this. There's a lot of racism for him to take care of. He could start with Tucker first. So, yeah, those are just a few ads from 2018. So, yeah, obviously you could do, there's crazy ads. Have we not all seen crazy ads from Democrats or Republicans? But, of course, he doesn't mention that these are Chechen terrorists. And I think I'm going to end the video there. It goes on for a little while longer, but this is already getting kind of long. So maybe I'll do a part 2 if there's... I'll be doing more videos about Greenwald, covering the anti-war crowd, Dave Smith, Jimmy Dore, maybe something on Tucker too. I want to do stuff on both the right and the left, so it doesn't come off too partisan. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.
A former Georgia gubernatorial candidate who campaigned in a deportation bus has pleaded guilty to insurance fraud. Ex-Senator Michael Williams was indicted in December in Hall County. The charges stem from an investigation into a reported burglary at Williams' office last May. The Republican candidate told police that his computer servers had been stolen. He now admits that that was a lie. Williams was sentenced to serve 4 years on probation and 120 hours of community service.